Now, my opponent, Raul Hernandez, claimed that the use of cell phones has a negative effect in the education of the student. And his three main points were that they were a gateway to distraction, they may cause academic dishonesty, and they have a negative outcome in grades. Now, those points may be true if a student misuses their cell phone in school. And so I'm claiming that proper use of cell phones has a positive effect in the education of the student. I shall emphasize that in three main points. First, proper cell phone use improves a student's work habits. Secondly, my opponent needs to show more sufficient proof that cell phones cause academic dishonesty. Thirdly, students with better grades are not negatively affected by cell phone use. So going back to my first point, proper cell phone use improves a student's work habit. And I do believe that if you're misusing your phone, you're probably going to be, a student can be distracted from their work or from their study. And my opponent gave a statistic on that, which was only a study on teachers' opinions. And it read, the report by the college board says that 64% of students from middle and high schools say today's digital technologies do more to distract students than to help them academically. And then I continued on with the report and found that another 77% saying internet search tools have had a mostly positive impact on their students' work. The problem could be the lack of digital literacy training students receive, not the technology itself. The controversy there. But here's a study that's just on the students, or a statistic by the TRU. More than 1 out of 3 middle school students report that they are using smartphones, 39%, and tablets, 31%, to do homework. So students could misuse their phone to distract themselves from their studies, or they can properly use their phones to enhance their studies. And moving on to my second point, my opponent needs to show sufficient proof that cell phones may cause academic dishonesty, but the evidence he has was just a quote by a high school boy stating, "I've seen a lot of kids with their phones. They'll Google something like an essay question or something like that." And then I found a report from where this came from. There's no statistic on students cheating with their cell phones. They have statistics on other things, but not this. When I try to look for a study on that topic, I tend to find more opinion polls. For instance, an infographic published by onlineeducation.net says that 35% of teens admit to using a cell phone at least once to cheat at school. 65% of teens report that other students use phones to cheat. So, when using your phone to cheat in school is wrong. So there's no doubt in that. But my opponent needs to actually find a statistic that cell phones that may cause academic dishonesty. So moving on to my third and final claim. Students with better grades are not negatively affected by cell phone use. And so my opponent, he said in his argument that cell phones have they have a downfall in the student's GPA. Well, I found a report by the College Student Journal, and they found that while a bad GPA is connected with cell phone use in class, students with a positive GPA seem to have no trouble using their phone in class and were still able to receive good grades. It appears as though the higher the GPA that an individual has, the more comfortable he or she feels sending or receiving text messages in the classroom. And here's one more study on students studying for a test, not to cheat. a program funded by a company by the name of Qualcomm provided ninth grade students with smartphones which they could use to access additional instructions and collaborate with their peers at any hour of the day. After 1 year, the students who had the phone saw a 30% increase in their test scores. So I would say students with bad grades shouldn't really use their cell phones in school because it could do them worse. But students with good grades are more comfortable using their phones because they probably know how to utilize their time wisely on their electronics and enhance their studies without cheating. And so overall, misusing your cell phone can negatively affect a student's education. But if they properly use their phones, they can actually enhance their studies without cheating or distracting them to gain an advantage in their learning experience. So as I repeat my main claim once more, proper cell phone use positively affects a student's education.
All right, Nick, I think you are developing your own argument. Some of these secondary issues are applicable to the advocate's claims, and I thought you did an okay job on that. Sometimes it feels like you're kind of in your own little argument, and it's disconnected because of that conditional statement. I like the conditional argument that you're making, that it's basically an attempt to diminish the advocate's significance as opposed to deny that it could have an impact here. I did like the fact that there were a couple of places where you showed some counter evidence that showed that it has a beneficial effect. It was a little confusing, though, because on the second point, you've got the one section here where you said 35% admit using it to cheat during a test and 65% say they've seen other people using it. That basically is better evidence proving the point than the advocate had, which you had just criticized. So that's a little bit confusing. Why did you include that? That doesn't make any sense. I think it would be much more appropriate for you here to talk about those other arguments about where it's actually used in positive ways, and then maybe try and diminish this particular argument. It's interesting the whole thing is going on right now because I was just about to yell at a whole bunch of people for having their cell phones out while you guys are giving your speeches. I would prefer that not happen. So I don't want to pick on anybody individually. Let's just remember that your classmates are making an effort here to speak, and when they're talking to the top of your head, it's tough enough when I have to look down frequently to take notes, but when nobody looks up because they're doing texting, that's really discouraging to the speaker. So please try to refrain from using your electronic devices while your classmates are speaking. I'm used to rudeness. I don't think your classmates should get used to that rudeness. All right, thank you.